$13 billion, that's the price JP Morgan will pay the US government for its role in the 2008 financial crisis. And persuading the people, Japanese leader Shinzo Abe defends his plan for a succession of tax hikes. Hello and a very warm welcome. You're with World Business Report. I'm Sally BUNDOCK. Also in the programme, we'll be getting reaction from our team in Singapore to the other latest economic news out of Japan. Some interesting numbers out today. But first of all, the 2008 financial crisis didn't just do enormous damage to the world's financial system. It wrecked people's lives as well, so it's no wonder that harsh punishments are being handed down to those that are judged to have been at the centre of the whole debacle. Today, finally, a price was set for the part JP Morgan, that is one of the world's biggest banks, played in the crisis, is to pay $13 billion, the largest bank fine in history, to settle claims it overstated the value of mortgage-based investments sold to clients. But the deal only relates to civil damages, and JP Morgan is also awaiting the outcome of a criminal probe. From New York, Samira Hussein reports.
It's America's biggest bank, one of the founding financial institutions in this country. It didn't need a bailout during the banking crisis, but JP Morgan has just been handed the biggest ever fine by the U.S. government.
I have to say the settlement is a major step in restoring confidence that in our financial markets, no matter how big you are, you will be held accountable if you break the rules.
Like many banks, JP Morgan was bundling home loans into securities and marketing them as investments. As homeowners began defaulting on mortgages, the value of those securities plummeted and investors lost millions. In accepting the penalty, JP Morgan is admitting the bank didn't comply with its own guidelines, and employees knew the loans were bad. But despite the record penalty, no one person has been held responsible.
I think at some point, the American people need a symbol of accountability, and that just hasn't happened here. That's not happening with this settlement. For all the bluster that Eric Holder and Jamie Dimon are giving it today, frankly, as an American, I still feel like we need serious accountability for what happened.
Even with this fine, JP Morgan is still massively profitable. It made $20 billion in 2012 and is likely to do even better this year.
Certainly it's been a hit against profits and cash reserves, especially given the size of fine. But on the other hand, the share price is bumping up against a 10-year high. So while no one likes a fine, especially of this magnitude, I think shareholders are responding positively to it because it's eliminating some uncertainty about the company.
With this record settlement, JP Morgan hopes to put the fallout from the financial crisis behind it. But it still faces considerable legal jeopardy, with investigations into LIBOR rate fixing, foreign exchange manipulation, and its conduct in China. Samira Hussein, BBC News, New York.
Now, plans for a controversial rise in Japan's sales tax will be debated by the country's ruling party today. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's decision to try and double the country's sales tax to 10% by 2015, with a lift in April next year to 8% from 5%, is unpopular. But the ruling party is hoping a new $50 billion spending boost for the wider economy will ease the impact the tax rise will have on consumers at the tills. So why does the government want to lift the sales tax anyway? Well, the government says the move is essential if Japan is to achieve a balanced budget by 2021. It's hoped it will raise crucial funds for the growing welfare bill. By 2060, 40% of Japan's population will be retired. But critics say the move will hurt an economy that's only recently embarked on the road to recovery. Let's discuss this with Martin Schultz, Senior Economist at Fujitsu Research Institute, joining us from our bureau in Tokyo. Thanks for being on the programme. So the sales tax will be debated. Tell us more about the impact it will have on the Japanese economy, assuming it does come into being.
Well, Japan basically needs two things. One is additional growth to finance the growing number of retiring employees here, and the other one is a balanced budget. Japan's government debt is beyond 200%, sky high, so both needs to be balanced. So what the government is now doing is trying to implement a value-added tax, a sales tax hike, buffer this first for next year with an additional supplementary budget, and then debating how to proceed from there towards 2015.
Is it the right tool to achieve those goals that you just mentioned, balancing the budget and having money to fund a huge amount of people who are retiring?
Well, there is basically no choice, and the economy has a little bit cooled over the last 3 months, but it is still on a growth track. And Abenomics, as it has been coined, is very successful on lifting sentiment. So the government is very anxious to keep growth going, to keep sentiment positive. And during a sales tax hike from 5 to 8%, of course, there is some lifting to do. So government spending will carry the economy basically through next year, and after that we really need to see some structural reforms, some improvements in innovation, in investment, in growth strategies coming from the government side.
You say there's no choice. What about the risk that it will really hurt domestic demand in Japan when the sales tax does go up and people's spending?
Well, no choice is really the situation that describes the best in Japan right now. The government needs the economy to keep it growing, and it also needs to balance the tax hike. So the supplementary budget is probably very necessary. The next debate will be about the next tax hike, which is supposed to come in 2015, and this needs to be balanced actually with some tax cuts for corporations so that they will invest more, being able to increase wages at the same time to lift sentiment in the economy. And they will probably debate more European policies, like having different rates of value-added tax, like cheaper ones for necessities like rice and books and so on. And all this will go into the parliamentary debate over the next month.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Martin Schulz, Senior Economist at Fujitsu Research Institute. Let's brief you on some other business stories today. Shareholders of the phone maker Nokia have agreed to sell their mobile phone business to technology giant Microsoft for $7.2 billion. The deal goes ahead despite objections from some investors who oppose the sale of a Finnish asset. Regulators must clear it, but is expected to close the deal early next year. Yahoo's boosted its share buyback plan by $5 billion. The move aims to reward investors as the company looks to revive growth at the largest US internet portal. The internet search engine's turnaround plan is focused on acquisitions of smaller technology companies that can add to the company's talent pool or reach new sets of users. Of course, Yahoo has been very much in focus ever since Marissa Mayer became chief executive recently. Yahoo, prior to her appointment as CEO, did go through a succession of chief executives in a very short period of time. So all eyes to see this latest move by Yahoo in terms of their management strategy and what they will do in the future. Now, as well as starting a high-level meeting about sales tax in Japan, data out today is making headlines as well. The country's trade deficit doubled in the last 12 months as a rapidly rising energy bill pushed imports higher. Let's look at the markets right now. You can see the Nikkei down by 0.2%, a mixed picture in Asia though. Sharonjit Lail joins us now from our bureau in Singapore with more on that. Sharon, what's the latest?
Well, that's right, as you said, Sally. Japan, a record trade deficit for October. It saw just about a trillion yen's worth. That's about $11 billion. That's more than forecast. It's mainly due to expensive fuel purchases, which is continuing to mean imports are rising. They were up over 26%, and that's, of course, as nuclear plants continue to be closed off and shuttered since the 2011 Fukushima disaster. However, I should say Japan's exports saw their biggest rise in 3 years. That's leading to lots of hopes of a gradual pickup in global demand. Exports were actually up 18% in October, and they were mainly being helped by the weaker yen. We've seen the yen fall about 14% against the dollar this year alone, but of course export growth thus far has largely disappointed the Japanese economy this year. As we've been hearing earlier, you were talking to Martin Schulz of Fujitsu Research Institute. It's been helped by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's massive monetary and fiscal expansionary policy, and of course that may continue to help as well. But of course we continue to watch these trade figures every month, which this time around may provide some relief for the government.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Sharon Jit, who's in Singapore for us. That's World Business Report. See you soon as we talk through the papers.